Welcome to Co-op Mode, round 171. This is the official video game podcast of Secret Friends Unite. I am one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra, the first generation or second generation of Co-op Mode, where my previous co-host, Mark, is now on retirement. He's enjoying life in Atlantic Canada, about to go on a vacation. So, Mark, Godspeed, have fun. You got Donkey Kong Bananza to keep you and Finn happy. We're so happy that you're taking a break. But I am joined by some awesome people tonight, filling those shoes of the Canadian, and that is Mr. Matt Kennedy, MKen10, streamer extraordinaire, making me watch him go crazy and playing some fun games. Matt, how are you doing tonight?
Good, man. Those are, I don't know what Mark's shoe size was, but those are some pretty big shoes to fill. So I hope tonight I can do some justice.
Well, I'm not sure if you'll fit the Nintendo criteria of it, but that's why we brought somebody not even better, but just a great accompaniment to you, Matt, and that is Mr. Brian Shea, the executive editor at Game Informer, also host of All Things Nintendo podcast. So, Brian, thank you so much for showing up. You are a Minnesotan now. I think we've deemed it. I'm also Minnesotan. Game Informer was a heart of the gaming industry in Minnesota, and you're bringing it back. So, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is exciting. We've kind of been kicking around having me on the show for a little bit now, so I'm so happy we were finally able to make it happen, and I'm so excited that that Game Informer is back. You know, that was kind of like a not only a heart of the industry, but a heart of my life. Like even before I joined GI back in 2015, I grew up reading Game Informer alongside things like Nintendo Power and Game Pro and EGM. Like I would get all of them from like either subscriptions or from like, you know, my local library or my school library had like EGM. That was how I primarily consumed that one. But like, you know, every time I went to like a grocery store, I was picking up like the latest Game Pro and, you know, having a Game Informer subscription. So like to have it close down and also like not only lose my job and lose the ability to work with all these people that I love, but then on top of that, lose my favorite magazine. It was like a triple whammy there. So like, you know, I am very excited as well to be back.
Well, excellent. So before we get into, we're going to talk more about Game Informer, you know, kind of tell everybody what it's up to. They need to learn a little bit more about Brian. So this is going to lead me to three questions. And Matt, if you have one for Brian, these are really hard questions. So we'll see how Brian does. So Brian, what was the first gaming magazine you ever bought?
Oh man, first gaming magazine. I mean, do strategy guides count?
Those were a thing. I still think they still make them, maybe PDFs. I don't know.
Man, it might have been. If it's a strategy guide, then it was probably like a Super Mario World strategy guide. Like my first console I ever got was the Super NES, and I hope I didn't cannibalize one of your other questions. No. So I got a Super NES for Christmas, like right after it came out. It was like the old like Christmas Story surprise where it was like, hey, like that's all the presents. Wait, what's that behind? Like, why is the couch pulled out like that? Why don't you go look behind the couch, Brian? And I look, and it's a Super Nintendo, which was like the number one thing I wanted. Because up till that point, I'd only been able to play the NES at like aunts and uncles' houses or like neighborhood kids, like their houses. So I was like already like well on my way towards like gaming obsession. So to have an SNES, which was like the new hotness at the time, it was just like, you know, I was just jumping in with both feet. Up till that point, it was basically like at my house, it was like the PC, like we had like some Sesame Street game that like, you know, I had outgrown long ago. And like, I think we had like Yo Noid, like the pizza game. What was that? Was it Pizza Hut or Domino's?
Domino's, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we had that on the PC as well as like a Sesame Street game that I had outgrown, and maybe a Wheel of Fortune game that was like very rudimentary. But like, yeah, that was like my real gaming console. And I think I jumped in with both feet with that because like we were out at a store and I remember like begging my mom for this thing called Mario Madness. I don't know if it's a very famous strategy guide now because not only did it have a full strategy guide from start to finish of Super Mario World, it also had the Mario comic that was like the Adventures of Super Mario Brothers, I think it was called.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's become very valuable, actually. And I think I have that copy still, but like the cover's all ripped up and everything. So you can actually buy the comic standalone on Amazon now. And I did that, and it's so weird and like campy and everything, but I love it. So like I recently thumbed through it and I'm like, oh yeah, this is like a formative memory for me. So if that counts, that is my answer. If it doesn't count, honestly, it's probably, I think I have like a pretty early memory of like getting like a Game Pro with like one of the early Mortal Kombat games on it. Maybe like something along those lines, or like a very early Nintendo Power, like in the SNES or maybe even the late NES days. But yeah, that's probably my answer. I don't know the exact issue though.
We won't hold it against you, but the fact that you were able to find that comic again, that's awesome. Matt, do you have a question?
I don't want to steal from you, but being that we're all in games, and you probably do so much, like, in terms of like even reviewing games and writing about games. I just want to know, like, do you have that one game that is like total comfort food, that like no matter what it is, whether you're in a slump, whether you're just like, oh my gosh, work is gaming and now I want to actually like game for fun, quotes. What's that comfort food game that no matter what you love to go back to?
I have several, and I actually have it's perfect synergy between me promoting Game Informer as well, because in the issue that we are launching this week, that actually launched as of the launch of this episode, it launched yesterday digitally. You can read my opinion piece on how joy is enough, right? Like I think joy is reason enough is the title that I wrote for an opinion piece in the latest issue of Game Informer. And in that, I talk about how, like, I feel professionally obligated to keep up with all of like the biggest, most recent releases, right? Not only from like professional reasons, but like social media. I want to take part in like the zeitgeist of like, oh, Clair Obscur let's all talk about that. And what I've played of Clair Obscur is fantastic. What I've played of Doom: The Dark Ages is so much fun. But I got this itch around like, I want to say like February, that I wanted to play Breath of the Wild again. That's my favorite game of all time. I've replayed it twice, or I've played it twice. The first when it first came out, another time 4 years after that, and now we're just over 4 years after that. So it's almost like a 4-year cadence that it seems like I'm replaying this game. And I've been playing that, and it's like I have this like feeling of guilt of like, I want to be up to date on all the latest games. Why am I devoting all this time to this like game that at its minimum is going to take me 60 hours, right? And maximum, it's going to be like 150 hours. So like, and then I also want to jump right into Tears of the Kingdom after that, because then I want to get myself ready for the next Hyrule Warriors game that comes out later this year, allegedly. I don't know. We still don't have a date on that one, I don't think. But like, so that's one of them is Breath of the Wild. And I've been really struggling to like kind of push aside that feeling of guilt of like, I need to stay up to date with like all the latest releases, because like I also want to be able to talk about those games and all that stuff. But like I'm kind of, the way I frame it in the opinion piece is I am like trying to treat my hobby more like a hobby instead of like a checklist to be completed. And because that's typically how I've done it since I've started doing this full time, where it's like, all right, well, like I would love to replay like Mass Effect, the entire trilogy of that. But I really should probably play this game that everybody's talking about, because I should have like an educated opinion on it when we get to the end of the year. But like, I'm trying to quiet those voices. So I'm doing Breath of the Wild right now. Other examples I would say are like, I mean, Ocarina of Time's my second favorite game of all time. I haven't replayed that in a while, but
there's a theme here.
That's a good one. Yeah. I mean, those are the two Zelda games I'm going to say. But Super Mario World is a good one. That's one that I can fire up whenever. Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Pokemon Red and Blue is another one where it's like, and like if they had Fire Red and Leaf Green on the Switch eShop, that would obviously be like a great way to experience those games. I'm less high on Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, even though it's like technically remakes of that generation. And then the other one I would say is Final Fantasy X. Those are games that I've played through so many times I've lost count of. I mean, Breath of the Wild, I can tell you this is my third playthrough, because it's a relatively recent game. Final Fantasy X is probably like 8 or 9 times I've played through. Pokemon Red and Blue is probably approaching double digits as well. Mario World is absolutely in double digits. And then like in terms of games that like you don't replay, you just like play them because there's no real like end state to these games, it's going to be something like Rock Band.
Oh yeah.
Like, those are games I could just plug in my guitar at any time.
Fun party games.
So much fun. And I spent an ungodly amount of money on the Rock Band series over the. I mean, Guitar Hero too. I used to play competitively Guitar Hero in college. I'm still pretty good at those games, but like it's clear that my best days are behind me. I mean, obviously, like nobody's playing them as much as they used to back in like 2008 or whatever. But like, you know, I still love firing those games up. I have like something like 2,500 DLC songs. So
wow.
like I don't want to do the math, but like those were anywhere from like $2 to $4 a song. So let's not dwell on that too much. But again, that was over the course of like, you know, almost 20 years that I spent that money. Because Rock Band DLC, I think, just ceased like 2 years ago. So like it was spread out. It wasn't like I dropped like that much money in one sitting or whatever. But yeah, those are my comfort food games.
I just want to add,
used to be Overwatch as well, but I've fallen off that pretty hard.
Yeah.
I just want to add, like you mentioned that Breath of the Wild seems to be a 4-year cadence and you're on your third playthrough. And like, it's kind of like blowing my mind. Are we saying that game came out 8 years ago?
Yeah. 2017.
Wow. So I just want to heads up, but you know, big shout out to Breath of the Wild. So my son upstairs watching himself right now, is a huge Breath of the Wild fan. He's 9 years old and he has like 250 hours in Breath of the Wild. He's 9. He beat that game on his own when he was like 7. So we're huge Breath of the Wild fans. So love those answers. And it's just, I'm so glad that you could find the time to go back and just sit down and enjoy it as a hobby too.
Now, I will say right now I have like, I'm about probably 15 hours into this playthrough of Breath of the Wild. So I've done like, I think I'm approaching my second dungeon right now, or second Divine Beast. I know people get upset when you call them dungeons because it's like, they're not traditional dungeons. It's like, all right, I'll give you that. But like, I have stopped that completely in favor of Donkey Kong Bonanza because I'm having so much fun. I'm sure we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Oh,
you're muted.
That would be help. It makes me feel older because my son is a sophomore at the University of Minnesota now. He played Breath of the Wild at 11. So yeah, thanks Matt for making me feel old. Yeah, it's a great time to revisit a lot of those games because now the Switch 2 has improved those games. They've got extra content if you have NSO or you wanted to buy the content. So it's a great time to do it. I'm glad you didn't play it too early before the Switch 2 came out because you're like, yeah.
That was my thought process, right? I was just like, you know what? Like, even before they did the reveal, I was like, look, like the rumor was like 2 years ago at Gamescom, there was like behind closed doors demos of Breath of the Wild running at 60 frames per second. I'm going to hold off and see like if Nintendo, when they do the reveal event, announces that like those games are going to run better. And sure enough, they did. So I was like, all right, I will hold off and not play Breath of the Wild until that comes out. And that's when I spent my time playing like Doom the Dark Ages, Clair Obscur, which, you know, I got about 20 hours into that. So I have a thorough understanding of Clair Obscur. I wish I had enough time in the day to play all these games that I want to, because like that game like really feels like it was tailor made for me, because I love Persona. I love Lost Odyssey. I love Final Fantasy X.
I was going to say Final Fantasy X, you named it.
And I used to speak French. So like all of these things coalesce into like the perfect game for me, even though I don't speak French anymore. I know the curse words that they use in that game. That's for sure. So like, yeah, like Clair Obscur Expedition 33, it is like tailor made for me because it's like basically like Final Fantasy X and Lost Odyssey had a baby and like they let Persona 5 like babysit it for a month or something like
with
that's
Mario RPG.
With Mario RPG,
you know, yeah.
Mario RPG was the boyfriend that came over when no one was looking.
Let me spice up your combat, baby. Yeah. Well, very cool. Last question. This one's hope you be faster. What's a game you were so stoked for? You're so excited. You got, and you're like, oh, I made a mistake, or mistakes were made.
Oh man. That's a really tough one, actually. I'm looking at like my cover stories that I've written because I've been pretty stoked on all of those. Mm-hmm. I mean, the easy answer is probably Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and I am a staunch defender of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Actually, like I think that is one of the better Pokemon games. I'm a huge Pokemon fan. Like I told you, Pokemon Red and Blue is one of my comfort food games. But just the way that ran on Switch 1 at launch, like it ran so poorly. I took a full point off of our 10-point scale from that game. It was going to be a 9.25, but I gave it an 8.25. And like, it's like, that's still a good score, but like the performance issues of that game were inexcusable. I mean, another answer, if you want to go like just like this game didn't pan out particularly well, I would say the Callisto Protocol. Like that game was another cover story that I wrote for Game Informer, and I was super stoked on that. And I thought like the vision was there. It seemed like a worthy kind of successor to Dead Space. And then it came out right around the time of the Dead Space remake, which a lot of people really loved. And then the Callisto Protocol just kind of landed with a thud. And it seems like there were some development issues with that game, which is really unfortunate because there was a lot of promise with that. Trying to think of other ones that were just like, oh, this just really did not resonate with me. I mean, Sonic Superstars was kind of one that like I was like thinking like, oh, this could be like the true successor to Sonic Mania, which is something I've been waiting for since 2017. And it, like, I don't know, the level design was a little bland or frustrating. The boss battles were not great. The art style I thought was pretty good, pretty solid. I don't know. It didn't land with me the way that I had hoped it would. But yeah, I mean, I don't have any like catastrophic answers, unfortunately, aside from like Steel Battalion Heavy Armor, which was like the Kinect game that they put out. That was like legitimately the worst review score I've ever given. It was back before Game Informer. I reviewed that for a website that I was running, and I gave it a 1 out of 5 because it was so busted. And the only reason it got a 1 out of 5 is because I later learned that our site had the capabilities to award a half star. I did not realize you could. I would have done that because it was so thoroughly busted. But like that was more of a curiosity than something I was excited for.
Sure. Okay. I was going to say on the Pokemon front, my ex co-host Mark, he is a staunch defender of Pokemon. We have a game ongoing that's called Todd because I joke that I'm the Pokemon master, even though I'm not. So he makes me guess Pokemons, things like that. But I always joke that is like the franchise that makes the most money. It's all this money, and they put so little into their games versus like other developers where you can see where they put the money. It's like we're too busy putting the money in other places, which is just sad. But I'm hopeful though that because we're going to get a Nintendo or Pokemon, I guess a celebration day.
Pokemon Presents.
There you go. Where Pikachu's going to be a DJ apparently, and you're going to get some news. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, and hopefully it's all good for Switch 2 with Pokemon. So
actually, there is one more answer that comes to mind.
Okay.
Marvel's Avengers. You know, I still say that like the single player content in that game is pretty good and the story was fun enough to play through.
Yeah.
But like that's not the meat of that game, unfortunately. Like the meat of that game is the co-op, which is like the most bland PvE content I've ever played. And like there's one thing that I love like as much as like Mario and Sonic and Zelda, and it's like Marvel. Like I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I grew up reading like X-Men comics, and you know, I had such an adoration for Marvel. One of my like early memories in high school was going to see the first Spider-Man movie with a bunch of friends and just like having an absolute blast and being like, oh, well, this is like my personality now. And to have a game that has all the Avengers and like having like different play styles, having a cool story involving like characters that we haven't really gotten in the MCU. Like I was so stoked for that. And I was like, everybody was saying like, oh, this looks terrible. This looks so bad. The live service stuff looks like just like a disaster. And I was trying so hard to see the good in it and just being like, all right, well, I've seen some cool stuff. Like there was undoubtedly some very cool stuff that they showed off pre-release. But then I remember playing it at Gamescom 2019 and being like, something just doesn't feel right here. And I told them that, and they were like, okay, well, we'll adjust it. Like we're getting feedback from like press that's playing it. So I told them like, hey, like Thor and Iron Man should be like the two easiest characters to translate. Like, you know, you had the God of War combat director on this game, and Thor, who has a very similar moveset to Kratos in the God of War reboot, just didn't feel right. And then Iron Man, like, how could you like not have Iron Man feel great? And I told them that, and they did make some adjustments from what I remember playing in 2019 to what came out, I think, in fall 2020, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And it still just didn't pop the way that like it felt like it should. And to have like, I think it's such like a weird thing because like it's such a fine line to walk. And I think Insomniac actually nailed this with their Spider-Man games of you are playing a superhero. You don't want to feel weak. Like you have to build up your character in order to like be effective in combat. So like when you are Captain America and it takes like 40 punches to take down an enemy.
Minions.
Yeah. This is not a boss battle.
No.
This is like
or Hulk. Even Hulk is the worst case, right? Because you're like he could destroy them, and yet it's painful.
You want to feel powerful when you're playing a superhero, and that game just fell flat in that regard. And I still think there is a good game buried underneath all of the nonsense, but there was just too much nonsense surrounding it, and like. I think that it's like an 8.5, but then when you take into account all of the terrible or bland or boring or repetitive or monotonous elements, you got to drop it down further than that. So like even though I was like such a mark for that game and I was still keeping my optimism alive up until launch, I have to admit that it was a pretty big disappointment. And it was even further highlighted when they put out their Spider-Man DLC that was PlayStation exclusive. And you compared that to like how Insomniac Spider-Man plays, and it's just like, man, they had a fundamental misunderstanding of how Spider-Man should control.
Crystal Dynamics should have not made that game. They should let them do something different,
or let them make a single player game. Because I think that if they took all of their resources and focused it in on a single player experience, it would have been great.
Could have done a Black Widow game. I mean, if they think about where their wheelhouse is, or yeah.
Was that not the game that when it was like first revealed, that teaser, it was like the Avengers project or something, right? Like they honed over like the Captain America shield and like the iron and I don't even remember freaking the F. And the moment they revealed what it was that like, I never played it. I never put a second into it.
Like, honestly, the single player stuff, I'm not going to tell you it's the greatest thing you've ever played and it's like worthy of the Avengers license. But it is, I think, worth playing through if you were a big Marvel fan. I see you have the Captain America shield behind you. I'm
a big Marvel fan. So maybe, knowing that there's some single player aspects to it, maybe I should.
There's summertime. There's a full single player campaign. And then there's also like a Wakanda like story expansion and all of the DLC characters, which the roster actually ended up getting pretty big by the end. Like it's all free. So like I don't know like what the status of like it being on the storefront is because like they ended
buy it, I think, still for $5. It's very affordable.
Sold.
Yeah. It's well worth it. And they did I think they eventually just unlocked all of the DLC because you no longer buy it. So like all the costumes, so you could get the costumes that made the characters look great and iconic versus some of the weird decisions they made and how they made them look. But
they made Captain America by default look like kind of like you took some football equipment and made a Captain America cosplay just using like your high school football locker room. Like that's how the Captain America default skin looks. But then they put out like post launch, like, oh, here's the Winter Soldier outfit for Captain America. And here's like the Avengers Infinity War outfit for Captain America and Iron Man, and all the different Avengers have like their iconic looks. I think they tried to sell them for $15 or $20 a pop. And then that didn't end up working out for anybody because it was only like the most diehard fans, which there were very few of, ended up purchasing those. So they just made them all free now.
Nice. Oh, I like that number.
I still think it's available, but obviously check your store where you can find it. Maybe even a physical copy. I think I might have bought a physical copy back in the day, but we'll see how that goes. So before we get into the meat of the show, Brian, really quick, in regards to kind of where Game Informer is now. Obviously, you just shipped your first issue. You've got stories on the website. So tell anybody who may be in a dark hole, because even somebody asked like, Game Informer, what's going on with them? I'm like, well, they've got new ownership, they're independent, all of these things to be, a journalistic, integrity is part of it and doing your own thing. So tell people, like, if they aren't aware where Game Informer is and what you got planned.
Yeah. So, we were shut down of August of 2024, and at that point, it seemed like, all right, well, I guess that's that. That's the end of the chapter, or that chapter for my life and for the industry and for games media. And shortly thereafter, we had this company. We had several people reach out actually about trying to acquire the brand, and this one company was particularly persistent. And our editor in chief, Matt Miller, worked very closely with them to try and secure the brand and the rights and everything. And they reached out and they were like, "Hey, like, would the team be interested in coming back if we acquired the brand?" And we all kind of just assumed, like, all right, that's a long shot. And the talks kind of continued progressing. And around December of last year, it seemed like, oh, this probably is going to happen. So I still wasn't like really holding my breath, but it was like, all right, well, maybe I just kind of like, keep my eyes open on this. And sure enough, it ended up panning out, and we were hired back on in February of this year. And then we relaunched in late March, I believe March 24th of 2025. And we kind of came back with the idea of like doing everything that we were doing before, but bigger and better. So our issues, for those who have received their first issue, I know that like a lot of people are still waiting, and I just got my issue last week. So they are still shipping out. Once they kind of enter the postal system, like it's a little bit out of our control, but we're doing our best to kind of monitor the situation and getting people their issues as fast as possible. But like I got my issue last week, and I was blown away by the quality. Like we have upped the print quality, we've upped the cover quality. It feels like a premium product. So we're doing it better paper quality. We're doing it with more pages. I think we went from 80 pages to 96 pages. And we're really working with a lot of really great partners to get some of the best exclusive content and coverage that we can. So Borderlands 4 was our first cover story. And, it's great to come back with a well-established studio and I think the sales of Borderlands as a franchise has like topped like 35 million units across its many entries. So, and Borderlands 4, by the way, is looking and playing phenomenal from everything that I've seen and played. I went into Borderlands 4 feeling not apathetic, but just feeling like, all right, this franchise is one that I used to love back in the Borderlands 1 and 2 days, and everything else has kind of fallen flat outside of like Tales from the Borderlands. Borderlands 4 is one of my most anticipated games of the year at this point, just because of everything I've played. Feels fantastic. So you can read all about that in the first issue. We just announced that Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 is our second cover story. We are currently in the process of locking in our next cover story, which I think has a lot of excitement as well. Like we're very excited to feature this game on our cover come late August, early September. So yeah, we're doing our print issue again, bigger and better than before. We have our website back up and running. We're doing day-to-day coverage over there. We're publishing reviews, previews, all those things on a daily basis. And the Game Informer Show podcast is back up and running, so you can find that in your podcast feeds. I think that if you were subscribed to it before and you didn't remove it from like your podcast app when we were shut down, like you are probably receiving new episodes. You may not even realize it.
Oh, they're back, baby. I got the notifications.
That's amazing.
So yeah, that is back. It's one of the longer running video game podcasts. Yeah. So yeah, like we're doing everything that we were doing before. We're slowly but surely kind of trying to get more folks on our team as well. Like we're kind of adopting a startup mentality because we have to. We're not owned by a major corporation anymore. We're owned by a game development studio that is based in Europe. So we don't have like kind of like the corporation resources, but there's also other benefits that come with that. So we are, we're building ourselves back up. We're getting, we're back up and running, I think, in the way that we were when we were shut down. But now we're getting to a point where we are able to do things bigger and better than we were even 4 years ago, right? Like we're bringing on some new people, hopefully very soon, and we're working to deliver the exclusive coverage that people have come to expect from the Game Informer brand, and doing even more than that.
Brian, I'm so excited. What I'm holding in my hand, I don't know if you can see it. Game Informer 300 launch party at Fulton Brewery. Went to that. That was amazing. I remember meeting Abby Heppy when she was there. I believe it was I can't remember what game it was. Was it for Little Big Planet when she was there? Really amazing.
It might have been. God, what was their game create? Why am I blanking on the name?
Oh, Dreams?
I think it was for Dreams.
Could have been. Yep. So my request would be to have another get together at a local brewery in Minneapolis to have maybe a release party for your 10th or your 12th, maybe 1 year. That'd be amazing. I think that would be great. And then the other request is, I believe Paul Charchian used to do a video game podcast with several Game Informer members at KFan. Maybe you get Paul back. I know he's doing an Empire of fantasy football. I think it would be great to get Paul back on for one more time.
Hey, I love Paul. I've been on that show many times, Video Games Weekly. I've been into the KFan offices and the studios. Like we recorded them remotely when COVID was happening and everybody was kind of isolating. But like, I think I've been into the KFan studios probably 12 to 15 times to do that show. And, I've even referenced some of those conversations that we've had in like articles and everything that I was writing and podcasts I've recorded, because we've done them with some special guests as well. So yeah, absolutely would love to do a show with Charchian again.
Amazing. Well, thank you for indulging my Minnesotan Game Informer love. So with that, then we, unfortunately got to pay the bills. So we got to thank our Patreons, our Secret Friends squad, our besties, Derek Trevelyan, aka the Figure Dude, Francie, our official hairstylist of SFU, the Xbox Expansion Pass with Mr. Luke Lore, Charlie's Uncle Tim Horan, who gets our podcast on audio tapes, Friends with Benefits, John Sedorf, Brandon Myers, Corian HD, Matthew Keel, Kurt Krug, Tanya Lee, Chipotle Bear, Famous Seamus, Cam the Movie Man, J-Port, New 007, Darth Prozac, Freight Conductor, and our Secret Friends Super Squad, Sean, Stella, and Henry Nice. Thank you so much. And folks, if you're not a subscriber now, you can get your first month 50% off, or give us a trial and see if you like it. And then it's only $2 a month for ad-free benefits for all our content. Check it out. We've got some awesome interviews coming up with comic book creators. We've got actors. We've got some awesome people, and we're going to have some more fun there. So check out patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. So with that, we get into the segment that people hate or they love because I make them make hard choices. And that's buy, rent, and return. And this week I picked the Koolest Kongs. So with Donkey Kong Bonanza coming out, we realized that there are way more Kongs than I ever imagined. I looked it up, and then I found that there are Kongs in various things that have never appeared in games, but they are part of like strategy guides. So I picked Swanky Kong, Wrinkly Kong, apparently who is now a ghost, which I didn't know, which is very odd. And then Uncle, which it's very odd. And then Uncle Kong, who apparently only appeared in a Donkey Kong strategy guide. And he kind of looks kind of sketchy. Kind of like the uncle from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So there we go.
And his tie, it says UK. Yes. Representing the British listeners over here.
Oh, I'm sure they appreciate that. That's exactly what they want. The John Waters mustache. I mean, very classy looking. And Swanky looks like he's from 1922.
Yeah, he was a big movie star in the Donkey Kong Country.
Absolutely.
Right, Donkey Kong Country 2. Am I right on that? I mean, I'm trying to go back. I'm trying to remember.
Kind of like Kingpin and Donkey Kong. So, yeah. Yes. King. There we go. So, really quick, I want to hit on one of our Patreons, Matthew Keel, Infinite_Rewind. He just came out here back in the fall. I actually took him to Tilt, or it's not even called Tilt. I think it's Lit Pinball Arcade in Minneapolis. Very cool place for video games and good food. And he's really amazing, loves music. And he says, second off, he goes, glad to we're doing the podcast. He goes, second off, why did you pick all the creepy criminal Kongs? I don't know. Is Wrinkly criminal? I don't know. Maybe she, she looks like a golden girl. She goes, but he's gonna go rogue, and he breaks the rules. He's gonna buy Funky Kong, renting Crinky Kong, and returning Diddy Kong, since Swinky Kong is obviously committing text fraud while simultaneously running several Ponzi schemes, not going too big with one like Bernie Madoff. And while we're at it, he's taking too close of notes on Ted DiBiase's whole thing, Uncle Kong's crimes, and dark blah blah blah. I could keep going, but obviously he's a little obsessed with the swanky and the uncle. So there you go. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate your input. So Brian, the coolest Kong. That's what typically I just put Kong. Like, yeah, you have to figure out your own criteria. I just like coolest Kong. So, who would you buy, rent, return in regards to the coolest of the Kongs?
I'm gonna buy Swanky Kong, just because Donkey Kong, he's not fooling anybody. That is Donkey Kong in a vest and the ruffle shirt from Seinfeld. That puffy is shirt. Yep. The puffy shirt. Yeah. That is that's just Donkey Kong. That is, and he gave him a sweet cane. But I'm gonna buy him because he clearly has the riz, as the kids say, or charisma, as everybody over 25 says. And so buy, rent, and return. I'm gonna rent Uncle Kong. Because I feel like if I tried to return him, he would have somebody shoot my kneecaps out. And Wrinkly Kong, I think you need to return. Is that a female Kong?
Oh, it's a grandma.
It's a grandma. Okay. Is that Cranky Kong's late wife or something? I'm trying to figure out where Wrinkly Kong comes from, but she looks like she just went to Jazzercise. Mm-hmm. And she's wearing some sort of she went walking through a mall, and now I guess she has moved on to the afterlife. You said she's a ghost now?
Well, would you like her official history?
Yeah.
She's the deceased wife of Cranky Kong.
Yes!
Mother of Donkey Kong Jr. and grandmother of Donkey Kong III. Regardless of her death, likely due to old age after Donkey Kong Land 3.
Regardless of her death?
Yes. Her spirit continues participating in games and aiding the other Kongs with helpful advice. And yes, she is a spirit later on in life, and she's had many appearances. She was even in Donkey Kong Barrel Blast and Super Smash Brothers. Holy cow. She's everywhere. So check her out.
Wrinkly Kong. So I'm very, very proud, in case you couldn't tell, that I surmised that
good job.
She is the wife of the only other elderly ape in the Donkey Kong franchise. I think she's got to go. I think we're returning her.
All right. Well, Matt, you've heard Brian's takes.
Well, all right. So since Brian returned Wrinkly Kong, I'm going to go ahead and buy Wrinkly Kong. I'm investing in wisdom. I mean, clearly the age, the grays, and the fact that she's a ghost must mean that she's got some sort of wisdom to her,
it's
right?
like a Star Wars situation where she learned how to harness
maybe
the Force.
Force ghost.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe she's like a Force ghost behind me, all these operations and stuff that were because everyone here seems to be like mafiosa, right? According to some of according to the right end. So I'm going to buy Wrinkly Kong. I'm going to rent Swanky Kong. Right? He's weird. He's glitzy. He's probably a good time.
He's got some Goro Majima vibes in Yakuza 0.
I feel like it's kind of like in the movie The Hangover, right? That good time happened all night long, but it's then I wake up with Swanky Kong and I'm like, man, you got to go home. You have overstayed your welcome. And then I guess I'm going to return Uncle Kong because I honestly don't even know who the hell Uncle Kong is. And I haven't played too much Donkey Kong, but I played enough. He's part of a magazine that I clearly, sadly, didn't read. I don't know you, so you got to go.
He was in the strategy guide for Super Donkey Kong 2 Dixie and Diddy for the Super Famicom. So only a Japanese release.
Okay, so he showed up to the party. I'm like, did anyone invite him? No, you got to go.
So Super Donkey Kong is what they call Donkey Kong Country. So that's just Donkey Kong Country 2.
Right.
Oh, really?
Oh, Donkey Kong Country 2. That's what. Okay.
So, but only in the strategy guide, only in the Japanese strategy guide. of Donkey Kong Country 2.
Right. I missed that issue. Okay.
It's an interesting take that they didn't make a Japanese version. They said, hey, we're just going to put a really sleazy looking dude in it. Works for the franchise.
Okay. Returned.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Let's see. So you know what? I think I'm going to make a mix. So I am going to buy Wrinkly Kong, to your point.
Wow.
Anybody who's a ghost is kind of cool, right? I mean, supernatural. I mean, she was like one of the Golden Girls. We don't know how, like you said, mysterious death that they imply is mysterious. That's kind of cool. I like the mystery.
But also get ghosts out of my vicinity. I don't want ghosts.
Okay, there you go. You know, I totally get it. I totally get it. Depending on your faith and your beliefs, maybe ghosts, you know, too close to home, and your spirit should go above. I'm going to rent Swanky. No. Let's see. Did I get this right? Yeah, I'm going to rent Swanky because he looks like a guy you kind of want around every once in a while. Like, he'll do something for you. Of course, he'll want something back. That's why he's got the gold tooth. You know, he got that off somebody. You know, they knocked him down, got it. He's got a cane, kind of looks like the Kingpin. So, you know, and he's a sharp dresser. You know, you can't say much about the rest of the Kong family. And then I'm going to return Uncle Kong because, once again, he's probably wanted in several states for doing things that aren't really legal.
Yeah, Uncle Kong really is a problem. Like, just looking at him, like there's nothing savory about this character.
He's probably not even the real uncle. You know what I mean? He's just that guy that everyone calls uncle.
Yeah.
And they can't figure out. It's like, wait, which one of he is it related to? And nobody at the family reunion knows. He just shows up all the time.
Yeah. He's a problem.
Like, what is it, Uncle Junior from The Sopranos? There we go. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So there we go. I do have one question. This is kind of a spoiler when you talk about Bananza. Are any of these characters in Bananza, as far as you know?
As far as I know, no. But I'm also only about 10 hours into Bananza.
Well, we have something to look forward to.
Yes, there's more to discover.
Uncle Kong is somewhere to be found.
Oh yeah, so many Kongs, and so many probably new Kongs too, which is great. Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencastr. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. Provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencastr because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencastr has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencastr? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with the click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high-quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show. Okay, we got our new segment. Typically, we don't cover a lot of news on the show just because it's very timely. So I figured we'd do this a little bit of fun. And these are all stories from GameInformer.com. The stories will be linked in the show notes, so check it out. The first story, and then we're going to do Super News Done Quick, meaning every one of us gets 1 minute to react to the story. So keep it concise, make your point, and we'll see if we cover everything. So the first news story is The Legend of Zelda casting was announced. This movie's coming out in 2027. Sony is producing this. It's live action. We have our two leads. We have Benjamin Evan Ainsworth. He was in The Haunting of Bly Manor and The Recycling Man, a movie I don't know. He's going to portray Link. And then we also have Bo Bregason, who played in Renegade Neil, and the Radleys. I think Renegade, it's Nell, but maybe check into if there was a Disney show called Renegade Nell, I thought, but I could be wrong. But Brian, I'll give it to your editorial staff to check that out. And I'm assuming this was a press release from Nintendo, maybe, that gave you all the information, so we'll see. But Ainsworth is 16 years old, and Bragason is 21 years old. So quick question before we actually get into your take on this. Is Link technically always younger than Zelda in the games?
Is he? I feel like I've always thought of Zelda as a little bit older in a lot of the games, but
I thought so too.
Maybe, I mean, but Bo Bragason is older, right? She's in her early 20s, and
she's 21, and Evan Ainsworth is 16. Yeah, young.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's consistent with how I've always pictured them in my minds, anyway. Yeah, I mean, I like the casting. I think, like, I didn't want, like, I said this on my podcast last week. It's like, I don't want, like, Tom Holland, as much as I enjoy Tom Holland or Timothée Chalamet playing Link, like, you know, the go-to for we need somebody who is young coded to play a young looking character. Like, I would much rather have a lesser known actor, kind of like they did with the Harry Potter franchise, right? Like they casted a bunch of young kids who didn't really have a ton of acting credits to their name. And you didn't have to worry about, like, seeing, like, oh, this is supposed to be this character, but all I'm seeing is Tom Holland's face, right? Like, that was kind of the problem with the Uncharted movie. I think the Uncharted movie is fun for what it is, but I never got past seeing Tom Holland instead of Nathan Drake. And
not Mark Wahlberg as Sully.
Mark
mustacheless Mark Wahlberg.
I think Tom Holland at the very least was convincing as that character, if you can get past seeing his face as, like, oh, that's Spider-Man. But Mark Wahlberg, I never stopped seeing, like, oh, that's just Mark Wahlberg. That's not Sully.
Yo, Nate, tell your mother I said hi. I mean,
but I mean, and then you look at with Bo Bragason, like, she is giving off Zelda vibes in the picture that they use. She's even wearing the blue shirt. If they're going to go with, like, a Breath of the Wild style story, like that, like, she could just show up like that, and you'd be like, yeah, that could be Zelda.
So really quick. So Brian, that's your minute take. So you're done. No, just one question. The quick, yay or nay, voice or no voice?
I think there's got to be some voice, but they could go with the like, kind of the Mad Max with Tom Hardy type approach, where, like, mostly silent. But I feel like for the sake of the narrative, because in the Zelda games, Link talks. He's just not talking in a way that you can hear him, because it's supposed to be you responding. That's why his name's Link, right? He's the link between you and the game. So you see him, like, motioning, and you just don't hear his voice, and the characters react, oh, that's what you're doing? Oh,
great point, Link.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they're going to have him say some stuff, but I think they could go with, like, a boy a few words, and that could kind of satisfy both sides. Because, like, in the Mario movie, like, Mario's having full-on conversations, which is something he never does out loud anyway in the Mario games. It's always just, like, little catchphrases and, like, sounds that he makes in the Mario games. So, like, they can figure out a way around it. I know you said yay or nay, and I gave you a very long yay.
It's going to be like the Jay and Silent Bob, where at the end of the movie he says nothing, and then he says something very verbose, and it's like, oh, okay, we'll wait till next time. Very cool. Okay, Matt, I'm going to time you. So here you go. You get both questions. Take on it, and then yay or no, nay on talking decarding now.
All right. I love this casting. I call it, like, the non-Robert Downey Jr. effect. I like the fact that we got, and I don't want to say they're no-name actors, right? Because I'm not trying to be mean, but we have two young actors that can really grow into these roles. I don't know much about Bo Bragason. However, I do know a little bit about Benjamin Evan Ainsworth, because I want to say he was Pinocchio in the live-action Pinocchio movie.
Right.
And I actually liked that movie. I know other people didn't like it, but I kind of liked it. I also liked Everything Is Going to Be Great. Did you guys, that just came out like a month ago. It's like an indie I think Sundance or something. If you look it up, Bryan Cranston and a few other big names are in it.
Oh,
he's a pretty solid boy, like, you know, kid actor. So I think I think we have a winner here, and we think we have two actors that can grow with whatever a series can turn into. Is my minute up?
Now, let me say this. Who plays Ganondorf?
Matthew Mercer. I'm just no.
I did think of that. I'm looking at the GameInformer.com, which now does say Renegade Nell, which is the appropriate name. That was a typo in the story. Thanks for pointing that out. So I'm seeing somebody say Willem Dafoe. I'm seeing somebody say Idris Elba.
I think they said Chris Pratt, right? I think he's available.
Chris Pratt.
No.
He's available.
I mean, I feel like it's got to be somebody big playing Ganondorf, right?
That makes sense.
And like the conclusion that myself and IGN's Logan Plant came to in my podcast last week was that it has to be a Ganondorf story, right? Like it can't just automatically be Beast Ganon. Like Logan said something along the lines of like, you can't have these two actors that like two young actors that not many people know fighting a CGI like pig beast. Basically, it's like it's got to be some sort of like humanized character. My thought process was for 90% of the movie, it's going to be Ganondorf, and then maybe at the end, it's like Ocarina of Time where he turns into Beast Ganon for like the final battle. But like, I think it's got to be a Ganondorf story.
I think you're right.
Agree.
Yeah,
I agree. Voice or no voice, Matt?
So, you know, even with playing Death Stranding too, right? And there's gotta be something. And I think Brian made a great point where, you know, you're choosing the dialogue, right? And he is making those motions. And I never actually thought about it that way, but he is communicating. There is talking, and that voice is your own voice. So there's definitely going to be voice. I don't think you're going to have this kid on a screen for 2 hours not saying anything. But I think just like in the games, Zelda is going to be, it's the Legend of Zelda. I think she's going to be the star of the show or movie.
Now, can I ask two additional questions? One, does this get slotted into the official Zelda timeline? And two, will they recast Link and Zelda every game or every movie? Because it's a different Link and Zelda in most of the mainline games. It's like, you know, the Ocarina of Time Zelda or Link and Zelda are not the Twilight Princess Link and Zelda. They're descendants of them, but like, you know, they are different characters altogether, just like inheriting those names.
I mean, you could do the American Horror Story style where they do recast the same actors, and
that's kind of cool.
Or like even like this is getting really geeky in my DC side. Like Hawkman and Hawkgirl are essentially reincarnated every generation. They're brought back together. So I think you could do it where it's like, because a lot of the times it feels like they're always getting in. They have amnesia. They have to start over from fresh. So it could just be part of their story. Like they are constantly reincarnated through generations. They get the same actors, but basically that's how they get to be different. Maybe because they have different backgrounds, they're raised differently, different like type of parents and things like that. So I think you could do a really unique take on it.
Now, what about the timeline placement? Do you think that they say like, all right, well, this takes place in the Fallen Hero timeline, or is this going to be establishing a whole new like cinematic timeline?
I guess it depends on the storyline they want to base it off of. I mean, I heard a lot of people talk about Ocarina being a good starting point.